As a city, it is not lost upon us that the 4th of July weekend this year was very different for the Shumpert family. While we have tried to limit our public comments about the facts which may impact the independent investigation of this incident, we have both publicly and privately extended our condolences to the family of Mr. Shumpert. Every life is precious. We acknowledge the value of every life. The Street Crimes Unit of the Tupelo Police Department was conducting a planned surveillance of the Townhouse Motel on South Gloucester Street in Tupelo. The planned surveillance was conducted based upon numerous complaints by local citizens and out-of-town guests and others of recent criminal activity of that specific location. After about 10 minutes of surveillance, at approximately 9:30 p.m., a tan Ford sedan was observed by the Street Crimes Unit lieutenant entering the hotel parking lot without stopping at the front office where one might check in. 3 minutes later, the same car was observed leaving the parking lot, which raised suspicions of the Street Crimes Unit lieutenant. The lieutenant then reported the tan sedan as a suspicious vehicle over in-car radio and advised other officers that the vehicle was heading north on Gloucester Street in Tupelo. Authorities later learned that the car was driven by the man we now know as Mr. Antwun Ronnie Shumpert. The suspect, a multiple felon, had an outstanding warrant and extradition order in Midland County, Texas for his indictment on an additional felony which has been outstanding since March of 2014. At that time, Officer Cook ordered the K-9 to pursue the suspect underneath the home in an attempt to force the suspect to surrender. Officer Cook watched through the door as the K-9 grabbed the suspect by the arm. At this point, instead of surrendering or complying with the law enforcement officer, the suspect fought the K-9 by punching the dog and grabbing his head. As a result of these actions, the suspect striking the dog, the K-9 lost its grip on the suspect's arm, but still at this point had a hold of his jersey that he was wearing. The suspect then took off his shirt or the jersey to avoid the grip of the K-9 altogether. This was effectively the 7th time in less than 10 minutes that Mr. Shumpert failed to comply with the lawful commands of a law enforcement officer and failed to surrender at this time. The suspect then exited the crawl space and charged Officer Cook. With a football-style tackle, the suspect took the officer to the ground. While on top of Officer Cook, the suspect began viciously beating the officer in the face and head. At this point in the incident, the matter changed from that of evasion or resisting arrest to an active, unlawful, and felonious assault on a police officer. This was the suspect's 8th and the most violent resistance to police officers within a span of less than 10 minutes. With his pistol and attached flashlight in hand, Officer Cook attempted to fight back as he began to see stars and feared that if he lost consciousness, the suspect would use his own weapon against him. Fearing for his own life, Officer Cook discharged his service weapon 4 times to stop the assault against him. It is important to note that FBI statistics from the 10-year period of 2005 through 2014 indicate that out of every 20 police officers killed in the line of duty, 1 is killed by their own service weapon after it was taken or apprehended by the suspect. Circumstances in which an officer is assaulted and faces the prospect of losing his or her own weapon, such as what Officer Cook's encounter was with this suspect, are particularly dangerous situations for our police officers. A fact that is significant in light of some of the most sensationalist claims that have been made is that the specific K-9 unit involved in the June 18th incident had lost in a previous incident all 4 of his front K-9 teeth. This significantly limits his ability to inflict serious damage from bites. I believe strongly in the city of Tupelo. I have full confidence that just as we have done in the past, we will once again come together as one city, as one community, and together we will move forward and continue to make Tupelo, Mississippi a great place to live.
First, on today, we sent a letter to the United States Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, Criminal Section. I have copies of the letter here for members of the media. We asked the Department of Justice to open up a criminal investigation into the actions of Tyler Cook, as well as to investigate the entire Tupelo Police Department for instances of excessive force. I understand the mayor had a press conference earlier. He gave some reasons. They've had nearly 3 weeks to come up with those reasons. I'm glad they finally said something. But a busted or tail light or tag light, that is not sufficient reason for someone to end up dead. If you look at the photo that the city released late last week of Tyler Cook, it appears that those injuries are to the right side of the face of Tyler Cook. We know that Mr. Shumpert was right-handed, and those bruises should have been to the opposite side. I have also retained the chief medical examiner of the city of Washington, D.C. as our consultant expert, and he has given me his preliminary report after reviewing the photos and reviewing the medical records in their entirety. And in his email to me, this is Dr. Roger Mitchell. He's a forensic pathologist, not an ER physician, but a forensic pathologist. This is what he does for a living. He's the chief medical examiner of our nation's capital, well qualified. He says, in no uncertain terms, the findings documented by hospital records are consistent with an altercation with another person and a K9. The altercation culminating in multiple gunshot wounds causing the death of the patient. He goes on to say, I recommend the review of autopsy photographs and the autopsy report prior to making definitive conclusions, opinions as to source, nature, and character of the inflicted wounds. But my expert tells me that so far the wounds are consistent with the K9 attack and nothing has changed. The MVI investigation is still ongoing. So if they told you today, they could have told you on Father's Day, they could have told you on Monday, the first working day after Father's Day, but they waited. They would have told you nothing had this family not hired a competent attorney and got the information out there as we appreciated it. The question I had once I listened to the mayor about an hour ago was, what happened to the dog after he pulled him out or grabbed him by the arm? Did he just sit there and let his handler get beat brutally by this football player? So why would that K9 allow someone that was a total stranger to beat his handler up and not come to his rescue? That doesn't make dog sense. No pun intended. It's incredulous to think that Ronnie would have harmed his soul. Those multiple felonies that the mayor mentioned, they were non-violent offenses that he pled guilty to: burglary and larceny in 2006, over 10 years ago. Non-violent offenses, and the current indictment that exists in Texas was for theft by deception, nothing violent. He didn't have anything in his background, his history, that would lead anyone to believe he was a violent individual.
That's your only witness at this point?
Yes.
Did the witness speak with MBI?
I have informed MBI of the witness. I don't know if they have spoken at this point. Again, we caution everyone to remain calm. If there are any protests, we ask you to be peaceful in memory of Mr. Shumpert. Thank you.